Well. It's no secret that the MCU has been deteriorating in quality after the release of Avengers Endgame. Like, how did Marvel go from this?
Dread it. Run from it. Destiny still arrives.
To this.
Eat my hammer!
But anyways guys, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the cataclysmic downfall that Phase 4 and 5 has brought on the MCU. Now let's start off with Phase 4. Believe me when I say this, Phase 4 wasn't 100% bad. There was actually a few great masterpieces that came out. Everything else is either average at best to god-awful at worst. You see, Phase 4 had very few golden apples with some average apples and then some rotten apples. Now let's start off with the golden apples. The best thing to come out of Phase 4 is Spider-Man No Way Home. This movie pulled in almost $2 billion worldwide at the box office. I'm going to drop a lot of spoilers, so you have been warned. So it starts off with Peter Parker's identity being revealed to the entire world. Everyone now knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So Peter is not happy about this and decides to go to Doctor Strange to cast a spell to make everyone forget about the fact that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But then Peter decides to interfere during the spell and huge consequences happen. All the other Spider-Man villains from different timelines or universes have now escaped from their own timeline to enter the current timeline that the movie is taking place in. For example, Dr. Otto Octavius, Sandman, Electro, and Green Goblin. The rest of the movie is about fixing the problems that Peter has created. Despite the plot holes the movie has, I really like how character driven the story is. Instead of using Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire as well as the other OG Spider-Man villains as nostalgia bait, they actually use these characters to make a coherent story. It's like the writers actually know what they want to do with their characters. Overall, the acting and dialogue is great, the characters are near perfect, the casting is near perfect, the plot and story are good, but it does have some issues. Moving on to the next golden apple, we have Moon Knight. Moon Knight actually has a good premise with a great plot, along with good action scenes and dialogue. And the final genuinely good thing to come out of Phase 4 is Loki. Honestly, Loki deserved his own show and it was good. Now, moving on to the normal apples. I Am Groot is a TV show that I didn't even know it existed until I started my research on this video. This show is like a plate of plain French fries. It's not intolerable either, but it also isn't great as well. This show is bland, boring, painfully average, and very forgettable. Hawkeye and What If are kind of enjoyable to watch, but they are nowhere near the levels of Daredevil and Punisher. Although I will say this, Kate Bishop is actually the best and a new female character to come out of Phase 4. Despite the plot armor she has sometimes, she actually has a personality and a likable one at that. She also isn't really a girl boss Mary Sue either. Also, the Guardians holiday special is just as forgettable as I'm Groot. Werewolf by Night, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and WandaVision are only good to die-hard Marvel fans. Moving on, Miss Marvel's Eternals and and Shang-Chi was mediocre, but they aren't the worst of Phase 4. And finally, we have the worst of Phase 4, aka the Rotten Apples. Thor Love and Thunder was garbage on so many levels. The dialogue is awful, there's more plot holes than this chunk of cheese, and this movie tries way too hard to be funny. Like, how can I take a movie seriously if it doesn't even take itself seriously? Besides, most of the jokes don't land either. I honestly hate what they did to Thor. He went from a badass warrior in Infinity War to a room temperature IQ moron that got stripped butt naked by his own father in front of hundreds of people. Next up, we got Black Widow. This movie is honestly so bad on so many levels. Like, how do you come up with CGI like this with a $200 million budget?
Don't do it! This was fun! No!
Then we have She-Hulk. To be honest, I don't even have to explain this one. Oh, and Multiverse of Madness and Black Panther were disappointing and forgettable too. But anyways, that's Phase 4. Now let's talk about Phase 5. Phase 5 is even worse than Phase 4. Now let's talk about the best thing to come out of Phase 5, and that's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This movie is honestly so good on so many levels. In fact, this movie had a $100 million budget and brought in $690 million worldwide at the box office. Now, believe me when I say this, the rest of Phase 5 is pretty bad. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania isn't as bad as people say, but it's not that great either. The movie was nothing but eye candy, as it was way too reliant on CGI. Now, I'm not complaining about CGI. In fact, I don't mind the CGI, but you cannot use CGI as a compensation for a lack of storytelling and character development. Also, Ant-Man's daughter is so insufferable in this movie, and Kang is such a shit villain. As for how this movie performed, it was kind of bad. This movie had a budget of $200 million and only made $476 million worldwide at the box office. Moving on, Guardians 3 is much better than Quantumania, and it's actually good. This movie had a $250 million budget but pulled in $845 million worldwide at the box office. But anyways, we now have the worst movie of 2023, and that is The Marvels. Oh my days, was this movie a failure beyond expectations. There isn't really a plot in this movie, and the villain, Ben, is generic and forgettable. In fact, this movie did so bad that it only brought in $197 million worldwide at the box office when it had a $275 million budget. Secret Invasion was also another forgettable failure. The series didn't even bring in 1 million viewers. This show honestly had a talented cast of actors and a good premise, and they ruined it. And finally, as for Echo, I don't even know what to say. It's just so bad. But anyways, that is all I have for you in today's video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe with post notifications on, and comment your own video ideas or even comment something positive. But anyways, see you guys in the next one.